I was thinking about why I do what I do in terms of business and who I wanted to focus on. And I just started crying. And I realized that it was only recently that Dad had passed. And I hadn't really let myself cry because I guess I've been the strong person organising the funeral and managing the probate law process. Like all of that stuff was happening while juggling all my own stuff. And I had parked it and put it on hold. And then it just all came out, and it was this kind of delayed emotional moment.
Hi, and welcome to the EO Business Podcast. I'm your host, Linh, and in today's episode, we have an inspiring conversation with Matthew Magain, founder of Sketch Group and a member of EO Melbourne Accelerator program. Now, Matthew has built a thriving business in the world of visual storytelling, helping companies communicate complex ideas through sketching. But what makes his journey truly remarkable is that he's done it despite having aphantasia, a condition that prevents him from visualizing images in his mind. Now, beyond the business challenges, Matthew has faced personal adversities, including a divorce and the heartbreaking loss of family members. Yet through resilience, creativity, and the power of entrepreneurship, he has grown Sketch Group into a successful company. Now, let's get ready for an insightful conversation about overcoming adversity, redefining creativity, and the power of storytelling in business. Let's dive in.
This episode is sponsored by
Great design is something that improves with age, like me. And this, a lifetime guarantee. That's important. And because Mia specialises in all of these things, of course I put my name on it. Introducing the new Mia Durham Palmer range. Mia, with you for life.
Well, hi, Matthew. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Lynn.
Yeah, it's great to have you on here. And it was such a privilege to chat with you a little bit earlier on and just to see how much things that you've gone through, the challenges that's taken you to where you are. So I can't wait to deep dive into those things as we talk further. But before we get started, I would love to hear a little bit about your origin story of how you even came up with this idea of creating sketches for companies and enterprises.
Sure. So I always drew comics as a kid, but I was quite good with computers. So I spent my teenage years playing lots of video games and went down that path studying computer systems engineering at uni and working as a software developer for a few years. PwC was my first employer, so I got to be a consultant on a bunch of different big projects, and I just realized it was not my calling. It was not my jam. There were developers around me who could see the matrix, and for me, I could do the work, but I just found it draining. It just wasn't. I thought every day shouldn't have to feel so draining. So I ran away to Japan to teach English and to have a think about what I wanted to do with my life. And it was really like working in schools, working in businesses over there, creating English as a foreign language teaching aids. So board games, conversation charts, vocab sheets. It was just quicker to draw stuff and photocopy it than it was to do anything on the computer. And, in a culture of anime and manga, that really resonated. And I guess that's where the seed was planted, where I thought, I seem to be quite good at this and people seem to like it. And I find it quite easy. Like that's definitely, I should pay attention to that and follow my nose. So I came back to Melbourne. I went back to my old job for a short while, but I guess this seed had been planted and I managed to shift from being a developer to working for a publishing company and editing books about software development, and then designing the internals of the books, designing the covers, designing the websites for that organization. And that was my journey into, I guess, a more creative career.
You also do mainly a lot of videos, etc., that I see on the website as well.
Yeah, the business has grown up with two main offerings, and for a while I really wrestled with is this two businesses? So one is the explainer videos. So my big first entrepreneurial play, I had grand plans to build a UX consultancy. So I got into user experience design on that kind of design trajectory, and the word UX, the phrase UX, was not very well understood in the mid-2000s, and I thought, I can answer that question. I can talk about it. So I made and explain a video. I literally spoke to my next door neighbor and said to him, hey, I know that you operate cameras for Channel 7 and Channel 9. He does the footy and the cricket. That's his bread and butter. And I said, if you film me drawing on a whiteboard and edit it, then I'll redesign your website. And we literally did that deal over the front fence. and the front fender fell down a couple of months ago, so our kids could play in the front yard. But yeah, that video answered the question, what the heck is UX design? And then I used that to launch the UX business. But actually, what happened is all of my freelance design clients saw the video and said, "Hey, can we have one of those?" So the video business started to blow up. And then around the same time, I was taking lots of sketch notes. I didn't know they were called sketch notes, but just kind of visual summaries of presentations at tech conferences that my employer was sending me to. And we'd stick them on the web. And it turns out my employer's blog that had these sketch notes was getting all this traffic. And someone from Microsoft saw them and said, "Hey, I really like those sketch notes you're doing. Can you come and do that on stage for me at a conference in the Gold Coast in front of 3,000 people?" And I said, sure. And I just, I had no idea what I was doing, but I backed myself. And so that was my first graphic recording opportunity. Graphic recording is what I call sketchnoting at a larger scale. And yeah, I was on stage in front of 3,000 people with markers and a big kind of canvas, doing what I'd always done on my lat. And after that, I went to a conference overseas and kind of learned that it was called graphic recording, learned the tools to use, learned some of the techniques, and just professionalized the craft of graphic recording. So these two businesses, making videos and taking visual summaries, I really wrestled with them being two different offerings. And then I realized after thinking about it far too long that actually the customer doesn't care. It's just sketching. So the customer will see me at a conference and they say, "Hey, I really like what you're doing. Do you make videos?" Or someone would see a video and they say, "Hey, I want you to do that in the room for me." And so even though the process is really different, even though my team of illustrators that work on videos and that work on as graphic recorders are a very different skill set, very different personalities. Like the illustrators making videos they're often introverted. They work on their own quietly and slowly, and they'll show you when they're ready. And the graphic recorders love the thrill of the live event. They're like, some of them are actually, they're in rock bands. They're almost like they get a buzz out of being a performer, being in the spotlight, and the ambiguity of a real event and that, the possible things could go wrong, they actually thrive on and really get a buzz out of contributing to the room in that fashion. So they're very different skills, even though it's both drawing. Customer doesn't care. Yeah, so video was actually originally called Sketch Videos, and I evolved it to be Sketch Group to accommodate the fact that these were the two main offerings.
Oh, that's awesome. And so as an artist yourself who kind of organically grew with people asking you, "Can you do something for me?" The next person, was that the growth strategy, or did you eventually go, "Hang on, how do I grow this?" Because I know you have 6 people team. Because often people who have the talent can get stuck in the business and be that person who's just drawing all the time, and yet you're able to start growing and going beyond yourself. How did you start growing the team?
Yeah, it was pretty organic, but it did require me to be comfortable with losing some of the control. I thought for a long time about whether it was important for us to have a house style and for me to recruit illustrators that drew in a similar way to me. And eventually I realized there's actually strength in the diversity of styles. And so the first illustrator that I hired in a freelance capacity, his style is very different. It's very detailed. The characters look completely different. And so it actually becomes a strength, because when we work with a client, for example, to make a video or a poster, and we get to the point where we're going to start giving them some concepts, we ask them, which illustrator would you like to work with? And we show them examples of a few different illustrators that we know are available, that we think might be a good fit. And then they get to choose that style. And so if we had a house style, we wouldn't be able to offer that as an option. And there have definitely been occasions early on when we didn't offer that. We just gave them an illustrator that we knew was available, and it was a poor fit. And so it became an important part of the experience for the customer. It was the style decision is a big thing. Now you think about it, people have got wildly different ways of how they communicate things visually, and you want to make sure that the one that represents your idea or your brand is a good fit. So it's an important piece of the puzzle, but we nearly didn't have that as an option.
That's great. And you mentioned that you had a client who used the drawing to win a pitch or something. I'd love to hear that again, because I think sometimes we underestimate the power of standing out, putting effort in a video like this, so that you could actually win a tender.
Yeah, well, this wasn't a sales pitch, but if there was ever a case study for value-based pricing, then this is it. It was a health insurance company who approached me and said, "Hey, I want to pitch to the board this idea of setting up an innovation hub, and I think that I need you to help me get all of my ideas out of my head." This woman was like one of these incredible strategic thinkers. Like the way she operated was just next level. I was kind of blown away by the 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 big picture view she had and the big vision that she had. And so, yeah, just working with her to get her ideas onto the whiteboard and then shuffle them around and then take it away and deliver it. It was just an A4 sketch at the time. It was pretty simple, but it basically captured the ecosystem that they were working in, all of the different elements. So very big picture, and it gave her the clarity, and it painted a picture that she wanted to tell a story with. And then I didn't hear anything for it must have been like 2 or 3 months. And I wasn't very good at follow-up and nurturing client relationships back then. So I was just kind of back on with, doing new project work. And then I got a phone call from her out of the blue. And she said, "Oh, I just wanted to let you know that we've just been given $50 million in funding to set up an innovation hub in every continent. And the feedback from our pitch was that the image was like really what got it across the line. It communicated all of the challenges, all of the opportunities, all in just kind of a single page. And so I'm just calling to say thank you and to pass that on." And I was like, oh my goodness, like, I charged an hourly rate for that, and I had a bit more insight into the impact that it was going to have and the value that it was going to add. So that was like a real kind of moment for me where I've gone, okay, we're not just at the end of the production cycle making things pretty. We're really like at the strategy level, having a big impact, helping people get clarity, helping people just get new ideas and get excited and get inspired by the ideas that are being communicated. That's the value that we add. So that's a big part of why I'm still doing this 13 years after I started. Because I get excited about having that level of impact and getting up here through the visuals.
Yeah, I love that. How has technology impact your business? I know there's a lot of tools out there producing graphics and doing all lots of different videos and things easier. Like, how are you making sure that your business kind of thrive through this kind of very advanced technological movement?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's definitely an ongoing conversation of keeping an eye on what's out there. I think, look, I don't know if this is a naive approach, but I believe that a lot of the clients that we work with, the reason why they choose to work with us is because of the human factor that we bring to the party. So when we make a video for someone, we have this 2-hour workshop that we run with them where we really dive deep into their understanding of their audience and their understanding of the message they want to get across, and crafting that story. That, like, in many ways, that's where all the hard work is done. And then I think, like, the fact that we shoot our videos over the shoulder with some light set up to get rid of the shadow, like, we don't use a tool to mimic a hand bouncing around on screen, because I just think that people can tell, people that care about it being an authentic performance of a human telling a story with something as tangible and analog as a pen on paper. I think it makes a difference. And, that is why we've chosen not to go down the motion graphics route and the other video options where there isn't a hand-drawn element, there isn't a human element. It could just be done by a computer or an AI. Maybe technology will advance to the point where you can't tell if something is authentically human when it's hand-drawn. I'll need to keep an eye on that. But for the time being, like, that's a big part of our differentiator. Same with the events. Like, in the room, it'll be a long time before there's a robot that can,
Yeah.
like, people are fascinated when they're watching someone working with, we work with a pen on paper. There's no white out. There's no eraser. Like we're listening, we're picking out the ideas, and we're committing to the page to create something like you see behind me. And people find that fascinating, and that's part of what drives engagement. That's part of what keeps people glued to the content, or if they're drifting off, brings them back in. And then there's the visual summary afterwards. So I'm not naive that things are changing quickly, but I'm also not stressing about it.
Yeah, no, I love that, the life aspect of it, because that would be so interesting to see in real life. You mentioned that you have some sort of you can't visualize or something. I don't want to attempt to even pronounce the word.
Yeah, sure. I don't think it's a disease, but there is there's a condition called aphantasia.
Condition, that's the word, condition.
Yeah.
I don't just,
Aphantasia is a condition where somebody doesn't have a mind's eye. So I can't close my eyes. So I was doing a personal development workshop years ago, and the facilitator said, "Okay, everybody close your eyes and envision, sitting on a beach in 10 years' time where you've got all the things that you want in life." And I can't do it. Like I can't close my eyes and see anything. I can't visualize anything in my head. My
how
partner.
did you get diagnosed with that? Like, how do you know that is a problem, or someone else is experiencing something similar? Like, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I got chatting to my partner who has a very vivid mind's eye, so she can close her eyes and she can conjure up, almost feels like 3 dimensions, full color. Often, I believe that people who have a strong mind's eye also have really vivid dreams. So at night it's like a friend of mine says it's like going to the movies, and it's a triple feature back to back. He has this,
Yes.
I-
That's me too. I love dreaming because it's like I live another life. So you're saying you don't dream as well, or you don't remember anything at all?
I mostly don't dream. I definitely have had an occasional dream. They definitely haven't been very vivid. And if I try and conjure up anything, so it's a spectrum, right? So there are some people who, like yourself, have a really strong mind's eye and have really vivid color experiences when they close their eyes, and some people who have nothing. I think I'm probably not absolutely at zero, but just a little bit back from zero. So, for example, I describe it when I close my eyes and try and, I get a bit sad about this sometimes because I feel a bit of FOMO of having dreams like you, but also like my late mother. If I close my eyes and try and imagine her face, I can't do that. And the best that I can, like I'm trying to draw it in the sand, and the waves are washing away the line the moment after I've drawn it. So it's not something that I feel sorry for myself about anymore. I used to kind of dwell on it and go, this is not fair. And then I was like, you know what? Like I can draw. And so when someone says visualize something, I need to get a pen and paper and actually draw it in front of me. And that's my version of invisible. Yeah. And so people say to me, how can you draw when you can't see it in your head? And I don't know how to answer that, except to say that I must store it somewhere else. I store it somewhere in my brain that isn't related to conjuring it up when my eyes are closed. But, I've got this visual vocab. I've got this collection of images that I've drawn 1,000 times that I can draw really well because I've just gotten good at it over the years. And so that's how I operate. That's how it is.
That is so interesting, because we all naturally imagine that you imagine something and hence you start drawing, but you are kind of live. Everything is live with you.
I feel like the things that I draw, it's almost like I saw them in my body, in my muscles, rather than in my head. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense, but I feel like someone says draw a dog and I'm conjuring it up from somewhere else other than like.
Yeah. Well, we've got other challenges that we can talk about that is more, I guess, impactful to your life than, at the end that you can draw. It doesn't matter how you got there, but you can draw. But you've mentioned that you've gone through some debts experiences and even a divorce. How has that all affected your business or life?
Sure. Yeah, it was definitely like this 18-month period that was pretty crazy. So in the span of 18 months, a bunch of stuff happened. My marriage dissolved, and there are a lot of reasons why that happened. But definitely one element of it was that my wife at the time and I had a different risk profile. And so I think that, not being on the same page there meant that a foundation for me and my entrepreneurial ideas was not solid. But then 6 months after that happened, Mum was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and given time to live. Yeah, so I had this, and also at the same time, this is roller coaster because this kind of lows, but also these highs. At the same time was when the business really started to take off, and so video requests were coming in, graphic recording opportunities were coming in, and I was kind of seeing that this was an opportunity worth pursuing and it had potential, and B, like finally, I guess, having the confidence and giving myself the permission to pursue that. Yeah, so the ups and downs then included meeting my partner Joe, who we've been together for 9 years now and have a child together, and she's an amazing support. But also, like, Dad passing away then kind of 6 months after that, so it was almost like this low, marriage dissolved, and then high, the business is taking off, and then low, Mum gets cancer, and then high, I meet Joe, and then low, Dad passes away, and then that 18-month period was a lot. And
Sounds like a roller coaster.
yeah, just I think the only way through that I got through it was to stay busy and to just kind of, I don't know. It's funny. I'm trying to remember. There was an instance. I think it was that same personal development workshop when the facilitator was talking about envisioning stuff, and I was thinking about why I do what I do in terms of business and who I wanted to focus on, and I just started crying, and I realized that it was only recently that Dad had passed, and I hadn't really let myself cry because I guess I'd been the strong person organising the funeral and managing the probate law process, like all of that stuff was happening while juggling all my own stuff, and I had parked it and put it on hold, and then it just all came out, and it was this kind of delayed emotional moment. Yeah. I can't remember exactly what your original question was.
Yeah. I mean, my question is about all the challenges that you face, and it sounded like you really handled it really well. I guess from you being able to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel in every move, it was up, down for you. I would just love to understand, like, did it? I mean, you actually succeeded. Normally, when people have something like that happen, their business kind of get affected, but then it seems like your business thrived. Did it sound like it helped you to not think about the personal thing that was happening to you?
Absolutely. I think being busy with the business definitely helped me. Certainly, like the emotional challenges of separation. If anyone's been through separation or divorce, it's one of the the hardest things that you could ever do, especially when there are kids involved. Like we have 2 daughters, so like sharing the news with them was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. So being busy with work definitely helped. Being surrounded by good people, friends, family members, meeting Jo and her support when Mum and Dad passed was just I can't be grateful enough for having her in my corner.
It feels like when a door closes, another door opens for you. So how has that shaped the way you think about life now? Like, if you were to hit with a big challenge next, how would you approach it differently, knowing what you've known now?
I think something that I learned about myself recently is that going into autopilot isn't necessarily always the best move. That I'll relate this in a moment. Just last week we were sponsoring this big conference, and there was a lot to do, and I was just flat out. And I was in the car park at the end of one of the hectic days, and just kind of feeling overwhelmed, but knew that everything was going well and under control. And so I just turned around and reversed and turned the wheel and just slammed the car into this concrete pylon. And I know that happened because I was overwhelmed and I was relying on autopilot. And so I think one thing that I've learned is that actually when I recognize that in myself, I need to just kind of stop, and breathe and think and just be aware of the fact that autopilot doesn't always necessarily serve me well.
Mm.
I feel like an element of why I succeeded is because, like, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be an optimist. Like, there's no point in starting your own business and putting yourself in with that many challenges and that much risk, and then also bringing people along with you. Like, if you're not an optimist, then I can't imagine how that would be possible. So I think that has served me well for when personal stuff has come up. Like, you just kind of go, okay, this has happened. It's time to rise to the occasion and do what needs to be done so that I can put it behind me and move forward. So that's, yeah, I think I've definitely been, like, always had that optimistic spirit. Yeah, working for myself is probably the ultimate playground for where that helps.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Would you be able to touch on the side where you had a divorce? There are entrepreneurs, and especially people around our age, we start to face challenges in relationship, and sometimes, unfortunately, we go through a divorce and you are able to find new love. And I guess, I think when we were speaking earlier, I heard that, she's more aligned with your business goals and really supportive of your journey. Like, I guess I would love to hear some experience share around finding love again.
Sure. Yeah, look, well, when yeah, let me think. So my ex-wife and I, we did 12 months of counseling to try and save the marriage. We felt like we owed it to our children to go through that process before drawing a line in the sand. And that gave me really good closure, because the conversation about this was a surprise to me when it came up. So I guess having that closure was really valuable to be able to go, okay, I did all I could. There's no point in kind of feeling sorry for myself. It's time to move on. Um, I I installed Tinder on my phone, and I just wanted to know what it would be like when I was ready to go and kind of hit the dating world again. And so I definitely was putting myself out there before I was ready. Like, I was, I guess I was just curious. It had been 20 years since I had dated, and I just wanted to know what it would be like. So even though I was not emotionally or even logistically, because I was still living with my ex-wife, ready to start a new relationship, I just wanted to out of curiosity see what was out there. And I guess I learned that being a wordsmith is like a superpower on online dating apps. And being a strong communicator meant that I was able to, I guess, form connections with people before I'd met them, because we were, communicating with text message and banter and kind of having a laugh. And so, I don't know, I guess for other people that are in a similar situation, that closure is key. Like, if you haven't got closure, you're still wondering what if, or you're still thinking, what could I have done? Then I think you're going to be hanging on to the past and not opening yourself up to something new. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that closure is key.
Yeah. And how important is I guess, someone who's there to really understand your entrepreneurial journey and supporting you in your dreams? Because I think we mentioned a little bit about that.
I feel like I got lucky because I swiped right on my fiance because I thought she was hot. And I joke about that, but actually, that was a big part of me giving myself permission to define parameters around what it is I wanted in my next relationship. And yes, like someone who was going to support me rather than resent me when I was successful was a key part of it. But also, like, saying, why am I any less deserving than anyone else of someone who is beautiful and likes the same things? And so that was a big moment for me to go, it's okay. It's okay to have that list of stuff that you want out of a relationship. And I feel just extraordinarily fortunate that I found my dream woman and that it worked out like that.
What a beautiful story, and it gives people hope, because sometimes when you're in that situation, it can feel really doom and gloom, and you don't know how to get yourself out. And but yeah, someone wonderful could be waiting around the corner. I would love to hear a little bit about your journey into EO. Like, how did you come across the EO Accelerator program, and how has that helped you in your journey?
Yeah. So I'd had a couple of different business coaches or been in kind of coaching programs prior to EO. Had one business coach who was just fundamental around the same time that mum passed away, actually, was fundamental in helping me get my message, to get my message clarified and the sales and marketing collateral to be really firing on all cylinders. I had another business coach who ran a kind of group program similar to an EO forum, and I was in that for a few years before I felt like it was no longer serving me as well. That was great. And then so Anthony Lamb, who runs a videos business, so in some ways definitely competes in some ways. He actually reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "You're a founder. We've got this cool information night. You should come along and check it out." And I remember thinking, why is a competitor invited into his kind of mastermind circle? That's a bit weird. I don't know how I feel about that. Is this a scam? Is he trying to mind game or something? And then, once I went along to the information session and learned about forum confidentiality and the structure and everything, I just kind of felt like it had potential and that I should give it a go. And I really liked the fact that there was an accelerator program for businesses like mine that aren't yet qualifying for full membership, but the support of the learning days and the accountability groups and everything was just what I needed. And so I'm not being paid to say that the EO Accelerator program has just been phenomenal for me. The stuff that I've learned, the changes I've made, the people I've connected with, and the hope that I have for the future of my business is just all, it's all EO. I'm super grateful and super glad that I took the plunge and decided to sign up. And, I make the most of every opportunity, every networking activity or learning day or guest speaker or whatever on there. And I'm creating sketch notes of the session and sharing them with the team so that people get value from them as well. So yeah,
Oh my God, I want a copy of that.
what place actually? I was just chatting to my team that I've got 2 years of Accelerator Learning Day sketches that I might put together into a PDF to share with the EO community. That's the plan. So yeah, watch this space.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Well, what's next for you? What are your dreams and aspirations in your business or in life?
Yeah, so last year at one of our quarterlies, we managed to articulate on the page our 10-year vision. So I say we, like it's largely come from me, but I've involved my team so that they feel like they're a part of it. We have grand plans for the next 10 years to grow the team, focus on a few niches that we find really rewarding and that we can see are profitable. And we've put this all into a vision poster actually that shows like here we are now, and here's the size of the team, and here's the floor plan of the office that I want to house everyone in, and these are the industries, and that's all like a picture that because I can't close my eyes and see it, we've got on the wall in the office to inspire myself and for the whole team to get behind. So yeah, it's a pretty aggressive growth plan, but it will get me into EO if we manage to hit those revenue targets and to grow the team in the way that we want to grow them. So that's the plan is there on the page. I'll send it through and you can include it in the video if that's useful.
Yeah, sure. Send me any link and I can put it in the description below. Well, this leads me to the last question. With all the plans that you're trying to do and everything that you've accomplished so far, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your kids to say, my dad was?
Oh, you didn't give me a heads up for this question. Hard one. I don't have a strong feeling of wanting to leave a legacy. I don't feel like there's a bunch of things I wanted to have created that people will remember me by. I feel like I just want to know that I've realized my full potential and that the stuff that we're doing has realized the potential of the impact that can have. That's really what drives me. We're not trying to grow Sketch Group for growth's sake. I'm trying to grow Sketch Group because I've seen like that health insurer fund, like the impact that one sketch had on their entire business. Like I get a real rush out of being able to create visuals that have a similar impact for other organizations. And, the process of creating those visuals sometimes helps people get clarity where they can, see their entire articulation of their vision or purpose just through the process of drawing. And so continuing to do that feels like noble work, feels like an honorable thing, and a good way to utilize this gift that I've got. And so as long as I can give it everything I've got to bring that to its full potential, I'll be happy.
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful answer right there. You did really well, even though you were surprised with that question. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for your time today. I've learned so much from you, and I'm excited to see some of your drawings myself. But yeah, thank you again, and I'll make sure to put all your details in the description below.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real privilege. I appreciate it.